Hello, my gorgeous friends of Webflow. It's your friendly neighbor Francesco from Supersite here. If you've ever needed a video pop-up in Webflow that doesn't just look good but works perfectly, this video is probably what you were looking for. We'll use a free Webflow template called Scroll Vibe, link in the description down below. And once again, thanks to the help of Webflow's custom element, we'll see how to implement a custom video pop-up solution where the video gets automatically played when the pop-up is opened. The video gets automatically paused when the pop-up is closed. You can add as many open pop-up buttons as you want. You can also add as many pop-ups as you want inside a single page. And also, thanks to a couple of attributes, you can configure video source and video thumbnail. But that's not just that, because the pop-up can be closed by clicking both on a closing button and on the background. Page scrolling is automatically disabled when the pop-up is opened. Also, you have a custom play button to control the execution of the video when the pop-up is opened. Finally, with another couple of attributes, you can define both the easing function and the duration of the opening and closing pop-up animations. You can easily turn it into a component, yes. You can connect it to the CMS, of course. So, if you're looking forward to it as I am, stick around, and if you're interested in learning more about Webflow or no-code tools, check out our courses on Supersite Academy. Link is in the description down below. But now, let's dive in. So, this is our project, and the first thing we want to do is we want to click onto this trailer pop-up link div block, the one that sits on top of the background video, and we want to open the pop-up and we want the video to start playing automatically. But where's our custom video pop-up component? Well, there we go. The pop-up overlay element is our custom video pop-up component, and it contains everything we need to make this solution work. Now, we can see that the display property of this element has been set to none because, of course, at the very beginning we want the pop-up to not be visible on the screen. So let's turn it into a flexbox for a moment just to see what's inside of it. And we can see here that its position has been set to fixed because, of course, we want it to be fixed inside the viewport, and all the offsets have been set to 0 because we want it to take all the available space inside the viewport. Also, it has a pretty high Z index because we want to make sure that it sits on top of everything else. But the most important thing about this element, and by the way, I used a specific naming convention for classes for this project, but you can use whatever naming convention you want because attributes are the only thing that matters. And speaking of attributes, the most important thing about this pop-up overlay element is this fc-video-popup attribute with a value of component, because this tells the code that the pop-up overlay element is our component. Then we also have this easing attribute with a pretty weird value that defines the easing function that we want to apply to the pop-up when it fades in or it fades out. So to the animation that we are going to use to open the pop-up and to the animation that we want to use to close the pop-up. But one thing to mention is that this attribute is not really required. And if you don't use it, the code will simply apply an easing function of ease. But the question is, where can you find a value to be used for this easing attribute? I will add the link to the description down below, but anyway, here in this MDN web doc, we have a list of all the easing functions that we can use as a value for the easing attribute. And so, for example, we also have the usual is, which is the default value that I just mentioned. Then we have is in, is out, is in, out. And then we can also create more complex easing functions if we want. Then back to our project. Another attribute that is applied to the pop-up overlay element, so to our component, is the duration attribute with a value of 300, which is, by the way, also the default value for this attribute, because again, it's not required, so you can also not use it. And the default value for the duration, and in this specific case, the duration of the opening and closing animations applied to the pop-up will be 300. 300 what? 300 milliseconds. And now let's see what's inside this pop-up overlay element. So now let's see what's inside our pop-up overlay element. We can expand it, and The first element we meet is this pop-up close overlay div block. And we can say that this element sits on top of kind of the background of the pop-up overlay element. Its position has been set to absolute with all the offsets to 0 because we want to make sure that it takes all the available space inside the pop-up overlay element, so all the available space inside the viewport. But the most important thing about this element is the fact that it has this fc-video-popup attribute, so the same that we used for our pop-up overlay element, but with a value of close, because this tells the code that we want to use this pop-up close overlay element to actually close the pop-up and pause the video. Because we want our users to be able to close the pop-up not only by clicking on a close pop-up button, but also by clicking anywhere outside of the video. And that's why we need this attribute. Now, the next element that we meet is the pop-up element, which is actually the wrapper of the main content of our custom video pop-up component. But there's nothing really special to highlight about this element, just a few design properties that have been set to make sure that everything is centered and to define its size. But before diving deep into the pop-up element and see what's inside of it, let's take a look at this pop-up script element. An embed element containing all the code responsible for all the custom functionalities that we want to add to our video pop-up. But to be honest, even if I added a few comments to explain what is doing what, you don't really have to be aware of what's inside of it. So you don't really have to understand what I wrote here. You can just trust the fact that it's doing its job. Because once again, attributes are the only thing that matters, and everything that we need to configure can be configured thanks to those attributes. So now we can close it and we can move inside the pop-up element. So now let's expand the pop-up element. And the first element that we meet is the pop-up close button, which is a simple link block with a text inside. And the most important thing about this element is the fact that this element has, once again, the c-v-popup attribute with a value of close. So same attribute name, same attribute value that we are using for our pop-up close overlay element. Because once again, we want to be able to close the pop-up by either clicking anywhere outside of the video or on a close pop-up button. Then we have the iframe wrapper element, the element that is wrapping the iframe hosting the video. But there's actually nothing special to share about this element. It's just a simple div block with a few properties set to define its size and how it should behave. So let's expand this element as well. And we finally meet the iframe. This is a Webflow custom element that we turned into an iframe. By the way, what's an iframe? We can think of an iframe as an HTML element that can be used to show content that's coming from a different URL. So let's say a completely different website. And it could be either an entire web page or a video, just like our current scenario. But we said that originally this iframe was just a Webflow custom element. So how can we turn a Webflow custom element into an iframe? Well, we simply have to go to the element settings panel after selecting the custom element, and here under the element settings, we have to assign the value iframe to the tag property. And this will turn the Webflow custom element into an iframe. Now we meet probably the most important attribute of this entire setup, which is the src attribute of the iframe element. This is used to specify the source of the iframe. So in this case, the link to the video that we want to embed. And here, as the value for this attribute, we have to paste the link to the video. By the way, one thing to mention is that right now this solution only works with videos that are hosted on Vimeo. So if you're interested in videos that are hosted on, let's say, YouTube or a custom domain, please let me know in the comments down below, and maybe I will update this solution and I will also record and update a new video on YouTube. But back to our project, how can we pick the link to paste here and that should be used as the source for our iframe? We just need to access the page of the video on Vimeo, and we have to look for the share button here. We can click on it, and then we can click to open the embed tag, and we can expand it a little bit. What we need to copy is this link here, and we can stop right before the first question mark if we have it. This is the link and the only thing that we need to copy and then paste as the value for our src attribute. Then we have the frame border attribute with a value of 0, but this is just to tell the iframe that we don't want any border around the iframe itself. And then we have this allow attribute with a pretty kind of complex value, but this attribute is only used to make the iframe work as expected. So let's say we don't really need to understand the meaning of the value, we can just use it as it is. Then the next element we meet is this pop-up play link overlay. Nothing special to say about it. It's just the wrapper of our pop-up video thumbnail. So the image that we want to use as the thumbnail for our video, and it doesn't really have any attributes applied to it. It's just a simple image. And then finally, we have our pop-up play link, which is the button that we want to use to play the video if we pause it when the pop-up is opened. So let's say the video is playing inside the pop-up, but we want to pause it. There will be an animation that will make this pop-up play link element fade in, and then we can click on this custom play link to let the video keep on playing. And of course, this link will fade out. And the important thing to mention about this element is that it has a fc-video-popup attribute, but this time with a value of play. And this tells the code that we want to use this element as a custom play button for our video. So now we have explored the component and all its children, but the question is, how can we connect this pop-up to the trailer pop-up link so that as we click on the trailer pop-up, the pop-up shows up and the video starts playing? Well, we need an open pop-up button, right? So we can select this pop-up overlay element. We can hide it once again. So we can set its display property to none. And because we want to use this trailer pop-up link as a trigger for our pop-up, we have to go to the element settings panel and add to this trailer pop-up link element a fc-video-popup attribute with a value of open. And this will tell the code that we want to use this element to open the pop-up and automatically start playing the video. So now that everything is in place, let's try to publish our project and inspect the live link to see if everything is working as expected. So let's go to the live page. And we can see that if we click on our trailer pop-up link element, the pop-up shows up, the video starts playing automatically. And if we click on the iframe, we can pause the video, the thumbnail shows up along with our custom play button. And if we click on the custom play button, the video continues playing, and we can close the pop-up by clicking on the close pop-up button. And if we click once again on our link element here, the video starts playing where we left. And as we said, we can also close the pop by clicking anywhere outside of the video. But now let's move to the next challenge. So let's say that now we want to have a button slightly down on the page that we want to use to trigger the exact same pop-up. So we want to be able to use either this trailer pop-up link element or another button inside the page to trigger the same pop-up. How can we do that? Well, it's very, very easy to do. Let's say that we want to use this button here, this watch trailer button, to trigger the same pop-up. So we can select it, and here we just have to add a custom attribute, and probably you already know what this attribute is. We just need to add the fc-video-popup attribute with a value of open, and that's it. Now we can publish our website. We can go to the live page, and we can see that if we click on this link here, as before, pop-up opens. But also, if we click on the watch trailer button, pop-up opens once again, and the video starts playing where we left. We can close the pop-up, let's say this time by clicking on the close pop-up button. Now let's move to the third challenge. So now let's say that we want to have not just one pop-up but two pop-ups inside the same page. How can we configure the entire system to make sure that everything works as expected? Well, to start with, and anyway the process is very easy, we can simply select the pop-up overlay element and we can simply duplicate the element. Let's say this time by using Ctrl or Command D after selecting the pop-up overlay element. Now, the thing is that right now there are two pop-up overlay elements inside the page, and we have to find a way to tell the code which pop-up is doing what. But here, the only thing we need to do is we have to select our second instance, and for the fc-video-popup attribute, instead of using component as the value for the attribute, we need to add -2 to specify that this is a second instance of the component. And then let's say that we want to trigger this new pop-up by, clicking on this last element here. So on this grid project main content link block. And to this link block, we just need to add a custom attribute. So once again, the fc-video pop-up attribute, this time with a value of open2 to tell the code that we want to use this link block to trigger the second instance of our custom video pop-up component. And then of course we have to update the source of the iframe by using a link to another video. So here we just have to select inside our iframe wrapper the iframe element, and we need to update the source. So use the link to a different Vimeo video. And also, by the way, we can maybe even update the thumbnail. So we can select the image acting as the thumbnail for our pop-up, and we can replace the image. And let's say pick this one. Now, to see that everything is working as expected, once again, let's publish our project. Let's go to the live page, and we can see that if we click on this link, we can close it. Then the same thing happens if we click on the watch trailer button. We can close the pop-up once again. And if we scroll down and we click on this link here, we can see that nothing is working. Why? Because we forgot a very important step. Let me show you which one. So we can go back to our project, and we can see that both our pop-up overlay instances have the pop-up script element inside. And because this script is used to define all the variables that the code is using to do its job, if we have two instances of the same code, well, we generate kind of conflicts. So we only need one of them. So if we need to duplicate our pop-up overlay element inside a single page, and we want to have, let's say, 2 instances, 3 instances, the important thing to do to make sure that everything will work as expected is delete all the pop-up script elements, except the last one. So let's delete the pop-up script element that's inside the first pop-up overlay instance. And now let's publish the project once again. Let's go to the live page. And we can see that if we click on the first link, the first pop-up shows up, video starts playing. The same thing happens if we click on the watch trailer pop-up, video starts playing where we left. And if we click on this link here, we can see that the second pop-up shows up and the second video starts playing. But now let's move to another challenge. But now let's say that we want to use our custom video pop-up for other pages inside our website. At this stage, it might be helpful to turn our custom video pop-up into a component. But how can we do that? Well, first thing first, let's get rid of the first instance of our pop-up custom component, because it's the one that does not contain the script anymore. And anyway, we are going to use a copy of the component for this instance. So let's get rid of it. Then let's select the second instance here. And to turn it into a component, we can simply right-click on it and click on Create Component, or as it says here, we can use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl or Command-Shift-A. And we can simply call it Popup. Then let's click on Create. Now, what do we want to change of this component? Well, for sure, we want to change the value of this fc-video-popup attribute. because we said that if we use multiple instances of our custom video pop-up inside a single page, we cannot use the value component for all of them. We will use component dash 2, dash 3 based on the number of instances inside a single page. So here, to create a property for the value of this fc-video-popup attribute, we can click on this purple icon here, then create and connect new property, and we can simply call it component name. And then we can give it a default text of, and we can click on create to create the property. Then we might also want to use a different easing function for a different instance of our component. So why not? Let's make a property out of the value of the easing attribute. So once again, purple icon, create and connect new property, and we can simply call it easing. Then click on create. And we can do the same for the duration of the animation. So purple icon, create and connect new property. We can call it duration. And then once again, let's click on create. Then probably the most important property, we want to be able to change the source of our iframe. So let's open the iframe wrapper. Let's select the iframe, and then let's click on the src attribute and on the purple icon that is associated to the value of this attribute. So click on it, create and connect new property, and we can simply call it video link. And then let's click on create. Now we also want to be able to change the thumbnail that is associated to the pop-up. So let's click on the pop-up video thumbnail here, and let's click on the purple icon for the image, create and connect new property, and we can simply call it thumbnail. Create. And now, last thing, we said that if we have multiple instances of this custom video pop-up inside a single page, we have to delete all the pop-up script elements except the last one. So we need to find a way to hide this script if needed. And that's why we have to add a visibility property to our component. So let's select our pop-up script element, and here under visibility and user access, we can click on this purple icon to create a new property, create and connect new property, and we can simply call it script visibility. Let's click on create. And now we are able to hide the script. So get rid of the script. It won't be appear on the page if we have multiple instances of our custom video pop-up inside a single page. Now let's click here to exit pop-up configuration mode, because now we are ready to use it inside another page of our website and link it to the CMS as well. But first, let's make sure that everything is working as expected. And so let's duplicate this component and let's update its properties. So for the first one, we want the component name to be component. Let's leave the easing function and duration as they are, but we want to replace the image. For the first instance, we want this one. And let's also update the link to the video. So let's use the link to a different video. Then let's move to the second instance. And here we have to use component -2. And then we can leave everything else as it is. But we were about to forget that we need to hide the script of the first pop-up instance. So here under script visibility, let's click on hidden. And now let's publish our project and inspect the live link. And we can click on the first link to see that everything is working as expected. We can do the same with the watch trailer button. And finally, we can click on this last link to see if the second pop-up shows up. So yes, everything is working as expected. So now it's time to link our new component to the CMS. So let's go back to our project. And here we already have a CMS collection set up. And we can inspect the properties of this collection. So it's very, very easy. We have a project video link field that we will use to assign a value to the video link property of our component. And by the way, we need to use a plain text field. We cannot use a link field to assign a value to our attribute. And also we have an image field, a video thumbnail field that we will use to define the thumbnail of our pop-up. And that's it. And we just have a couple of items. And because we have a CMS collection, we also have a template page. So let's move to the template page, which by the way has the exact same structure as our home page. Let's say that now we just want to click on the trailer pop-up link and be able to display the pop-up that is associated with this page. So we can simply click on our page wrapper element and use the keyboard shortcut Shift A to open the list of all the available components, and then we can click on our pop-up to add it to the page. And then we simply have to configure it. So the name, we can leave it as it is, same for the easing function, duration, but we want to link this video link property to the corresponding field inside the CMS. So let's click on the purple icon, and here under projects, we need to click on project video link, which is the CMS field that we created just for this property. And then we also want to update our thumbnail. So let's click on this purple icon here and then on video thumbnail. And to make sure that everything is working fine, once again, let's publish our project and let's inspect the live link. We can click here and the pop-up shows up with the right thumbnail and video. And of course, we can move to project one item. We can inspect the live link. And if we click on this link here, we can see that a new thumbnail and a new video show up. Very, very cool, right? But now, before we wrap up, let me show you that here down inside the page, we have a list with all the attributes that you can use to customize this solution. And you can use it as a reference if you want to do everything on your own. And that's it. We've just seen how we can easily implement a custom video pop-up and how, with just a few attributes, we can set up the source link for the video, the thumbnail, and even set the easing function and the duration of the pop-up animation. Of course, a link to the clonable for this project is available in the description down below. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more Webflow tips and tricks. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Matane!